are so excited to have you. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm excited to be with you too. I am good. I'm good. Looking forward to having conversation about some fun projects.
All right. Well, Maya, take it away, girl.
Okay. So my first question for you is, who or what inspired you to start acting?
As a little kid, so I grew up in South Africa, and when you grow up in South Africa, at least when I grew up, you didn't really grow up wanting to be an actor because there wasn't much of an industry, not local, not necessarily. We didn't have anything like Hollywood or Broadway theater. And we did have plays in our high school. And there was something fascinating about being on a stage and having this ability to hold everybody's attention while, even at that young age, probably giving a pretty pathetic attempt at, portraying a character or inhabiting the story you're telling. So it started then. But at the age of 19, going to the University of West Alabama, I went and saw a play, and I thought, there's something about the lights going down. It's dark. Everybody gets to experience it at the same time. And I can't take my eyes off of what's on that stage. It's magnetic. And I tried out. I got the first role and the bug bit. So I don't know if that's a direct enough answer, but when you know, you know.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So you played Steve Larrabee in Rapid Eye Movement, and that is such a great movie. I've seen it multiple times.
That's great.
So what drew you to this role?
That's a great question. I'd worked with Peter before. Peter's a fascinating director. We had done a South African film called Colors of Heaven, a brilliant film based on a true story. And I knew Peter's filmmaking style, and I knew how he works with his actors. He told me he had this brilliant concept about a man that's got to break a world record for something, and that the whole film was shooting in Times Square. And I'd lived in New York over 2 decades, and I said, good luck with that. I read the script, loved the character-driven journey, and it's so good to hear that you responded that way, Maya. I think that's amazing. Loved the character-driven journey of the lead, and it was a world that I understood because a lot of my early years as an actor in New York, I'd spend time around radio. And even growing up in South Africa, I spent a lot of time listening to shortwave radio. And there's something magical that happens when you connect with a certain host. And the way that the script was navigated, and then the way that Francois Arnault played it, I too am fascinated by the film. There's certain things you'll pick up every time you watch it, even though you know what's happening. So that drew me to the project. What drew me to the role of Steve was that he had his own agenda. He didn't care. And he had this ability to just separate himself from people because of what he was driven by. I'm not like that in real life. So I thought it was a fascinating challenge to be able to take that on and sort of found what I had in common with him, and then just go all the way with it. So I'm glad that I did. We had a blast shooting this film, I'll tell you that. Half of Times Square thought we were actually a live DJ booth, didn't even realize they were in the film. Of course, everybody had to sign waivers, but it was a lot of fun.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I remember when after the movie came out, and my sister and I were talking about how we want to one day go and visit New York. And I was like, oh yeah, and we could go to Times Square because that's where Rapid Eye Movement was filmed. And I was like, yes, and the booth that they used. And my sister looked at me and she was like, the booth probably is not there.
She is correct.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, she's correct. But it's funny you bring up the booth, because we must have had on one night 10,000. We were trending on Twitter with the tagline "Stay Awake, Rick," because everybody said this has got to be a really famous DJ, because everyone who's in Times Square is mostly tourists, and they didn't realize it was part of the theme for the film. And one of the PAs on set, she goes, "Do you realize we're actually trending on Twitter?" I go, "What do you mean we're trending on Twitter?" She goes, "The hashtag Stay Awake Rick," because that's what was on the outside of the phone booth, was actually trending. So it was quite bizarre. You show up to shoot, and you're in the middle of doing your scenes. 4 or 5 hours go by, and you don't realize you guys are actually in a goldfish bowl on more than one level. So I'm sorry that the booth won't be there.
Yeah. So I was wondering, after filming, did it stress you out on nights that you couldn't sleep? Like, did the movie
no, I mean, it didn't stress me out, but I wasn't playing, Rick's role. Maybe for Francois, depending on what his process is as an actor. But no, I sleep well. I had worked hard. I did not have issues sleeping.
That's good.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So you were also in the thriller Infidel.
Yes.
What was the biggest challenge in playing a Mossad agent?
So growing up in South Africa, we had a pretty good understanding of the relationship of the way these people work, because one of Mossad's most famous agents was actually South African. Her name is Sylvia Raphael. And my closest friend in high school, his mother went to school with Sylvia. They were friends. Sylvia wasn't even Jewish. She was actually Christian, but she believed in the cause so much, she ended up joining Mossad. The biggest challenge for me in that role personally was that my character was actually an undercover journalist. And you don't ever want to tip your hat, because the second you do, you give it all away. You always want to conceal and keep the audience guessing and not, force anything. So the challenge was riding the fine line of being there to get the story as the journalist, but at the same time, knowing for me it was all about intelligence. And the writer-director, Cyrus Naraste, very brilliant man. This is a man who writes for and collaborates with Spielberg and Christopher Columbus and Oliver Stone. We had a lot of conversations about that, because my whole point to him was, a lot of Mossad agents don't look like He-Man. They don't look like Jason Bourne, because the entire point is you never see them coming. They look like regular guys, and they are they have to be good at hiding. They have to be good at blending in. They have to be good at appearing anything but what they are. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't come off as tipping my hat. That, for me personally, in the role was the biggest challenge, because once that switch happens, then he's in that mode. But up until that point, holding your cards, very hard.
Oh, wow. Did you have special training to prepare for the role?
So I actually did meet with, he does security here now, but I did meet with a man who was, he wasn't Mossad, he was cassette, I think they're called. It's a different form of crime intelligence in Israel. And my questions and time spent with him were mostly about the psychological aspect of what these guys go through, because they're trained very uniquely. They are For example, I met him in a coffee shop. He goes, "Do you know why I'm sitting at this table right here?" I go, "Why don't you tell me?" He goes, "Because I know the easiest two access points and the shortest path, the shortest distance for me to leave at any given point in time are 2 steps that way and over there. Do you know why I'm facing the window?" I said, "No." He goes, "Because I don't ever trust who's behind my back, because I know what I've done for a living." So that immediately helped me understand there's a certain mechanism and discipline with what these people do for a living. And the mental training and aspect of it leads everything, because they have to be 2 steps ahead. And even more importantly than that, every time any person would come into that coffee shop, he took note of them. He knew what they looked like. His perception of everything was so alert. I felt like the guy had 12 senses. So that for me in my process was very helpful, because in the early part of the film where I'm playing the reporter, you're there to ask questions and gather information, which is on a little bit of a parallel of what the agent does. Obviously, it's with a different end game, but the two went hand in hand. And that time that I spent with him was crucial to me. It helped me understand simple things like stillness. The guy never had, every movement that he had was very specific. It was for a very specific reason. And it was a little intimidating at first. I'm not going to lie. The guy was very minimal in his speaking. He finally opened up like 20 minutes in. I'm like, okay, there's a real person in there. But it was very helpful in the the preparation process.
Oh, wow. So I know that you were also in Law and Order SVU.
Yes.
What was it like to be part of this long-running show and franchise?
That will always be, and I love that you asked that question. That will always be one of my favorite jobs ever, because for me, I had been struggling, I was getting work, but financially it didn't pay much money. I had done mostly theater and learned and soaked and soaked up like a sponge everything I learned from some great artists. But financially, even with LORT contracts in New York, even if you're making $1,000 a week, you're starving because New York City is so expensive. That episode changed my life, because it was the guest lead role on a show I watched and was the biggest fan of. I loved SVU because I felt like it echoed what was happening on the streets in New York. But the reason it was so big was that Bradley Cooper, Alfred Molina, Angela Lansbury were all on the episode, but I was the guest lead. And I went in to read for it. It was a very difficult role. The character was a Bosnian fundamentalist, and the casting director sat me down and he said, we've had every Bosnian and every Middle Eastern actor come in here. The one plays it too emotional, the other plays it too hard. So just give us your most removed read. And I already had a very strong process as an actor where I prepare everything, many different ways. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it, given the circumstance with the reader. I connected well with it. And this incredible director who later would go on to win an Academy Award, his name is Juan Jose Campanella. I did one read. The producer said, "Do you want to see it again?" And Juan Jose said, he goes, "No, I've already been in the store and buying the merchandise." So I knew right then and there I had it. Working with that team was tremendous. It was a difficult episode because Mariska's father at the time had a stroke, Mickey Hargitay. So they had to switch directors halfway through. And then Juan Jose's mother got ill. I got on like a house on fire with Chris Maloney. He's a huge Washington football team fan. And we had a great rivalry in that scene. And it was just a tremendous experience, because that show, that franchise is a cornerstone. It's still going 20-something years now, I think. And it was an honor and a privilege to be on it. The writing was great. The showrunners are lifelong friends. Arthur Forney still works with all of the Dick Wolf shows. We'll see each other on the tennis court, or we'll see each other at the the French Film Festival here in LA. And yeah, can't have enough good things to say about it. Thank you for bringing it up, because that show was the domino effect of work. I never stopped getting offers since that show came out.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So you've been in so many varied roles and projects. Has there been one that's been your favorite, or that you've really related to?
My favorite project is always the one I'm working on and in at the moment, because I've been doing this so long that you give everything you have and you then leave and walk away. You have to. So my favorite job is always what I'm on. I mean, there are some roles that come to mind that personally were a lot of fun for one reason or another. I'll never forget doing Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, or Sweet Life on Deck, because I originally started out in improvisation and comedy, and Sweet Life on Deck is filmed in front of a live audience. And it was playing this crazy art thief named Stefan that the kids kept calling Stephanie. It's just brilliant writing. And I remember having the time of my life. I felt like I was a child again. I felt like I was playing, not working. I felt like I was rediscovering things that I started to discover when I very first started out with improvisation. But for me, the dramatic roles are what I really am drawn to. So it's tough to pick one, but I'd say probably the role in the film Colors of Heaven, because it's based on a true story. And it's just very dear to my heart, being a South African project.
Cool. Yeah. So you've also done several theater productions, both in New York and LA. What is the best part of doing live theater, and what's the biggest challenge?
Live theater used to be my favorite way to perform, because you have a live audience, you have an opportunity to work off an audience and an energy, and you have one shot. There's no takes, there's no cuts. I love that part of it. And it used to be my favorite medium until I fell in love with film, because I feel like theater is too verbal. There's too much talking. The biggest challenge or obstacle for me in theater is that it is, how do I put this? Most films are not shot chronologically. They're shot out of order. You won't shoot it from beginning to end. With theater, you will. And to be able to get that same result, where you need to get and make it new and exciting and real and organic and honest every night for 6 weeks or 6 months, is exhausting. It's a challenge. It's a wonderful background to have, and it gives you great skills. But to me, it does become a little bit monotonous, and I feel like it is sometimes hard for me to step back into theater, even though I've done hundreds of plays, only because film is so minimal and real and intimate, and theater could not possibly be, more the opposite of that.
Cool. Yeah. So I just have a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
Do you have any upcoming projects?
Oh gosh, yes. I have a really brilliant football film with Lawrence Fishburne and Milo Gibson that I have produced, that is based on the true story of the Abilene high school state winning football team of 2009. It's called Under the Stadium Lights. It's a true story. Paramount and Saban are distributing it. It opens in theaters June 4th. I am currently on a series called The Chosen. It's a very epic biblical series that's on the Chosen app. It's been downloaded, about 125 million views. Incredible show. I play a middle-aged Moses in it. and it's playing now on the Chosen app and on Peacock TV. And then I have a new film coming out called Destination Martha. It's a sci-fi film with Tony Todd. So yeah, excited about all three projects, and very, very keen to see how audiences respond to Destination Martha, because it's a sci-fi that's non-linear. So what you're seeing, nothing is what it actually appears to be, and that's a tough narrative to navigate, and you never quite know, okay, do we still have our audience? Are they still following? But I'd rather have that than spoon feed them. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm a producer on the film as well. And we're actually going to be announcing our release date within the next few days.
Oh, cool. So is there a show that you're currently binge watching?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. There are two of them. I'm currently watching Delhi Crime, phenomenal Indian series that is based and steeped pretty heavily in truth on one of the worst incidents that happened in India's history. The cinematography is superb. The writing is good. It moves. It shows you how different countries deal with criminals when there isn't necessarily the best infrastructure in place, and I'm loving it. And then I'm watching a Belgian series. I speak Flemish, so I understand it fluently, called Undercover. It's a noir. It's kind of a just a very smart crime action thriller. So yes, I'm binging both.
Oh, cool. So what is your favorite play?
My favorite theater play, you're talking, right?
Yes.
There is a fascinating play by Ethel Fugard, South African playwright. Ethel Fugard, we'd call him growing up. Now we're Americans, so we call him Fugard. But it's called Playland. And it's a two-hander, two people. And it deals with the very heart of the matter of how people did not get along, but then realized they were actually very similar. I love it. I think it's full of humanity, and that play excites me, and I still want to produce it. I've done it in class many times over the years, but that is by far, well, not by far, Of Mice and Men is probably right behind it, but it's Playland is my favorite play.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So what song do you have on repeat on your playlist?
Believe it or not, there is a Lauren Daigle song called Rescue that lifts my heart and spirit a lot. It speaks to our soul and how God's got our back, and it encourages me and lifts me. She's got an incredible voice, but the lyrics and the dedication to the love of the human spirit and God's love for us in that song it just lifts me. It lifts me. I listen to it every day.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I've there's this song called Imagine that just came out on Friday, and it's by the singer Ben Platt.
Oh, I got to look out for that one. Imagine by Ben Platt.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go check that out. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna listen to. I wrote down the song you mentioned, so I can go listen to that. So.
Sure. It's her last name is spelled Daigle. And the music video is stunning. It was shot in Alaska, but it looks like it's Antarctica. So Lauren, and then last name Daigle, and the song is called Rescue.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So is there a motto or quotation that you live by?
I believe that we are to find out what our God-given gifts are and pursue them with a reckless abandon. And I do live by that.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So my last question for you is, who do you consider to be a real life superhero and why?
I'd probably say my mother. She's had a very difficult life, but she always sees the upside in everything with humor, with love, and with levity. And to see how she handles certain situations and is able to rise above them and yet inspire and encourage despite what she's going through. Gosh, she is awesome. I do believe, and I've told her this, that somewhere in her house, she has a cape and a phone booth because I know she's a superhero. I know it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for calling in. I had so much fun talking to you.
Maya, thank you. You ask such wonderful questions. I've had a blast. Yeah, no, I've had a blast. And I will be sure to give Peter Bashai, the director of Rapid Eye Movement, your feedback. It's wonderful to hear from folks who love it. You know, we had some screenings and got some tremendous feedback, and people are still talking about it. So thank you.
Yeah. I after it came out, I asked my mom if we could buy it, so then I could just watch it whenever I wanted. So
some of those scenes in the booth with the snake and the stuff he sees, he's imagining, so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I had a blast, Maya, and thank you for your patience. I know we've been trying to do this for like the last 13 years, so thank you.
You mean months? 13 months.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy we could finally make this happen.
I am too. Thank you so much. You guys look out for Under the Stadium Lights. It comes out June 4th, okay?
Okay.
All right. Bye now.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.